Hey everybody, good evening. So I'm just going to wait for a minute to see if Facebook creates me an audience. So it's just me this evening. No longer in a hotel room with Yusuf. I managed to escape safely. He let me go. So this evening I'm going to be talking about dealing with hunger, but specifically dealing with hunger in the evenings while dieting. It's actually something that we've been asked this evening in one of our client groups, and it's something that we get asked an awful lot when we survey readers or survey existing clients. We ask one of the questions we ask is, when do you find sticking to your diet, when do you find adherence most difficult? And almost exclusively the answer is in the evening. So right before bed, hunger is at its worst and temptation is at its highest, and dealing with that while trying to fall asleep, while trying to relax, especially while other people tend to be involved in social stuff, or there's maybe opportunities that you have to forego. So evenings can be definitely the hardest part of dieting, especially for me, my experience, and with pretty much every client that we've worked with. So anybody who's watching live, if you have any issues with evening hunger or with dealing with hunger while dieting, I'd love to know your experiences, things that you've tried, things that you've struggled with. Otherwise, I will get into the content of what I want to say today. No experiences from anybody. Awesome. So the first thing to look at, if evening hunger is something that you struggle with, the first thing to do is to consider, funnily enough, the rest of your day. So ignore the evening to begin with, and start to consider the daily rhythms that you have, the daily routines that you have with your diet. So one of the easiest ways to screw with your hunger patterns, one of the easiest ways to reduce the satisfaction that you get from your daily food intake, is to eat at different times of the day. Skip breakfast, skip lunch, eat lunch, have different food combinations at different times. The more variables we have in the mix, the less reliance we can place on how full or how hungry we'll be in the evening. So obviously, as you're dieting, as you're losing weight, hunger is just something that happens. It's really hard to avoid, unfortunately. And I think no matter who you are, you're going to experience hunger to some degree. So trying to ritualize as much as possible when you eat, what you eat, the food combinations that you have at different times of the day will give you the clearest idea of, so I do this and I feel like this in the evening. I eat breakfast at this time, lunch at this time, I eat these foods, and in the evening I feel like this. So the more that we can make those things consistent, the more that we can make small changes and small tweaks and see if we can actually influence what happens in the evening. Which leads me on to the next thing, which is food volume. We were actually having a bit of a discussion with someone on our Instagram today about the idea of eating clean versus eating dirty, or like IFYM versus clean eating. And while we don't really prescribe either in its strictest form, we kind of believe in something between the two. There are distinct benefits to managing your food volume or your calorie food volume ratio. What I mean by that is, if you compare, obviously, the standard example, chicken breast and broccoli versus, say, something of equivalent calorie load, but of, say, a Mars bar or a Snickers or something like that, while the macronutrients aren't the same, the calories are the same. But if you imagine eating both at the same time, hey Anthony, how you doing? If you imagine eating both, which would provide the greatest fullness, you start to see the comparison. You can start to see how much of an impact food volume or calorie food volume has on your hunger. So if evening hunger is something you're experiencing, you've looked at what times am I eating? Can I make that more consistent? Then start to look at, well, how can I get more bang for my buck, as it were, with the calories that I have? So I start to look at subbing out very calorie dense sources of very calorie dense foods, adding in vegetables, adding in very voluminous fruit. So things like frozen berries, for example, instead of an apple, you can get more physical volume for the same amount of calories. And hunger does have a hormonal element, but it also has a mechanical element. If you ever had that feeling where you have something that's technically really high in calories, but you don't feel full, versus having a massive salad that has half the calories, but you feel stuffed, That's the mechanical element of hunger coming into play. So we need to start managing the volume of our food and getting as much physical volume as we can from our calories. And especially if you focus on that in the evening, so having a big bowl of salad or a big bowl of vegetables instead of rice or potato, for example, just two options, then you're probably going to get more fullness from the same amount of calories. So that's two things to look at. Hey Chris, hey Jen, how are you doing? Jen, this is your question. Hope you feel privileged. Third thing, hydration and misattributed signals. So you're dieting, you're hungry, you're moody, everybody else is eating Habbo while watching Big Brother. It's difficult sometimes to determine what's hunger and what's just a craving, or even what's thirst. But sometimes we can misattribute these evening sensations that we think are hunger with either just a craving that if we just distract ourselves or do something different would go away, or maybe we're thirsty, maybe it's a hydration issue. So really trying to focus in and pay attention on what is it that you're actually feeling. Is it actually hunger, or is it just that someone else has got a cheaper Pringles and you quite like some, and trying to learn and distinguish between the two. And then relying on a glass of water in the first instance and seeing if that makes a difference. So that's the third tip. Jen, I literally just drank a litre of water, but it ain't no chocolate. No, it isn't quite the same, Jen. But hopefully you feel a little bit better. Number 4, so the last thing to consider, if you've looked at what times of the day you're eating and whether you can make that more ritualistic or make that more consistent, you've looked at your food volume and you're already getting quite a lot out of your calorie allotment for the day in terms of the sheer volume of food. Number 3, you've considered things like hydration. You've considered things like, am I just craving some Pringles, or am I actually hungry? The 4th thing is look at, well, how can we're sat here in the evening, we're hungry, what can we do right now to make it go away? Things that I look at, and while there's a lot of negative attention in the fitness industry around this specific thing, diet, caffeine-free soft drink is a great way to pretty much kill hunger. So if you don't like things like Diet Coke, then sparkling water or anything that's carbonated tends to get rid of hunger pretty quickly. I don't know whether I'm going orange or not, but Flux is just kicking in on my laptop, so it looks pretty weird for me, but hopefully I'm not going bright orange. So calorie-free or diet soft drink that doesn't have caffeine in. Obviously having caffeine late at night, especially when you're feeling hungry, is going to almost eliminate the chances of getting to sleep. So that's number 1. Number 2 is water, as I've mentioned, or having some kind of drink that isn't going to affect your sleep or isn't going to make you feel more awake. Last thing you can try, things like low-calorie jelly, which is technically just water with thickener and sweeteners in it, but things that have such an immaterial level of calorie intake that they wouldn't matter if you did consume them. Obviously, if you're running into evening hunger consistently, if you're finding hunger is like a runaway problem every single night and cravings are a problem every single night, then so I think that means I have got orange, Anthony, so I'm sorry about that. If hunger is a persistent issue, then we maybe need to look at the structure of your diet as a whole rather than just getting irritated by the lag variables or the effects. So it could be that your calories are too low, could be that your activity is too high, could be that your sleep's insufficient. There's a whole host of things. But all this leads into something that we preach to all of our clients, and Yusuf and I do on a daily basis, which is just measuring a few vital key pieces of information that allow you to make informed decisions in situations like this. So in the evening when you are feeling hungry, and that's happening consistently, you at least know, well, I know what my calories are, I know what my training volume is, I know how much sleep I'm getting, I know what my mood's done over the past 5-6 weeks, I know what my hunger levels have done on a trend over the past 5-6 weeks. So maybe I need a week away from dieting, for example. I know Anthony, who's watching, who's just accused me of looking like Donald Trump. We've been tracking his hunger levels, his mood levels, his energy levels for ages now. So we have so much data on what his normal is. As soon as we see a deviation or a movement away from the normal, we can make some adjustments if we need to. So hopefully that has helped everybody, somebody. Jen, hope it's helped you. I know your question. So if you are experiencing hunger in the evenings, if the evening is a particularly difficult time for you when it comes to dieting, just a quick recap. look at your daily rhythms. When are you eating during the day? Is it all over the place? And is every day different? If so, look at that first. Try to make that as ritualistic and consistent as possible, so we remove that element of it. If you're eating at different times during the day, you're eating different stuff all the time, then we can't possibly say whether it's just your dietary habits or whether it's calories that are creating the hunger. Number 2, pick more voluminous foods to fit in with your calorie allotment for the day. That's going to reduce hunger and keep calories the same. Number 3 is make sure that it's not just a craving, and make sure that it's not a misattributed signal and it isn't just thirst that you're feeling. So try a glass of water, try getting out of the room, try telling your partner or friends to be more considerate and stop being so horrible and nasty. Number 4 is soft drinks, diet, calorie-free soft drinks that don't have caffeine in, ideally. Water or something like a low-calorie jelly, if that's something that you're interested in. Some people hate them. Yusuf actually developed a problem with them, to be honest, like a full addiction. There's a few photos of him on Instagram making a jelly pyramid and tower when he was very, very lean. But they pretty much get rid of hunger almost entirely, and they taste nice. So they're a good option. Okay. Hopefully you've enjoyed my Facebook Live this evening. And if you do like stuff like this, if you've liked the topic, I'd appreciate it. You could like, share, comment, do something to let me know. And I'll do more content like this. Okay, guys, have a good evening. We'll speak soon.